general idea of what's visible around us. We have a very general idea of how it feels the body close to us. Let's say you can recall where we started from. We started with the notion of a situation, changing it. It's the best way to understand a situation is changing it. Maybe you remember that film from Peter Weir with the professor that says to his students, to talk about the world as poets, you have to start by climbing on the table. So it's a bit that. It's a very well-known exercise. You can find many of these exercises. You can invent your own, what you like, how to change a little bit the situation, how to disappear if you want to disappear, how to be noticed, how to observe what are relationships between people and things and animals and the architecture. And it's all things that are very well expressed in textbooks. Any of you has all these references. What I challenge you to do, if you want to start with a process that we call now with a fancy word of co-design, but it can be said of any activity that involves a changing of the situation that is planned, is to start with getting you there, see the place. I did a lot of analysis for multimedia projects, which for me was fundamental, the idea of going into the real place. And then I learned to make this travel maybe early in the morning, maybe in a bad day, maybe to talk with the people that was there. And I made an habit of saying everybody buongiorno in the morning. So if I go 2 or 3 times in the same place in different hours, they start to recognize me. I like that people recognize me because I'm a narcissistic person. You know, I like to have to build contact with people, that they know who I am, why I go there. But it's also because it's a very good tool to analyze a situation in a way when you want to enter it and design for it and create something there. Also is the basic of sciences or arts that have as meaning to touch people life, carving the space they walk in, architecture for example, or carving the space a story is told, scenography, no? Or carving the space something happens in the virtual world that is not that virtual anymore. So for example, and now we're going to see it in detail, in this project of us, we started to think about the way we give access to the internet to our friends. Another thing before we go there, that's the part of DAOs, let's say, of the workshop. DAOs, by the way, somebody of you knows what DAOs means. 2 DAOs, it's an English term. No, because I also didn't know it when the first time I heard the word. It's the art of water witching, where you find water. So you take a stick of a nut. I tried it. I tried because when I knew I had to do this thing, of course I tried to find somebody that was expert in this and try it, and I read some books. You take this stick in 2 hands, you put it down, and you start to feel if there is water. So you go around in your terrain, and if there is water, the stick moves. And then if you dig, you find water. All the time. Exactly. The stick, now I don't have the stick. Now, how it works? No, it's so you ask to a scientist, he says it's pseudoscience. You ask to a politician, he will say it's very important, because I need to convince everybody to dig. So they need to be sure that there will be water there. So I need a trick to make everybody know that there is water there. You ask to somebody else, he will tell you another story. Nevertheless, the water witching works, but works in a strange way. So let's keep this information about witchcraft of the water, finding water. How do you say it in Chinese, for example? Do you know? 汉水。 So our idea was, okay, what there is invisible that bothers us technologically? For example, radio waves that brings information in a Wi-Fi environment, no? That we don't see. We have no idea what this device is doing. I have my thing here, attaches, starts to do stuff, and I don't know what it's doing. In a moment, I can give you space. Okay. Then, so we were interested in visualizing these things that pertain to the technological world in a way that they become visible, but also in a human way, in the sense that they become visible in a way that we like, in which we have agency upon. Because for some strange reason, as characters, we don't like too much the idea that somebody thinks for us how this thing should feel, no? How the internet should be in this room. I have some friends, they did, I forgot now the name of the project, but they did a fantastic little electronic device that was sensing everything that was in the radio wave. I would hear it. So I could put my headphones and go around with this thing, and if there was an antenna sending data, would have a sound. If there was a POS for the money, would have a different sound. Another source of electromagnetic thing, another sound. And they were very smart. They made the circuit not in a box, but I could put my hands upon it. And as you know, on short voltage circuit, if you put your hands wet on it, you change the sound, because you change the electronic noise that's in it. Was a fantastic little idea. The only problem is that the sound mostly was noise, very aggressive. Really, so a bit scary. So the idea was, I'm talking about 2000, maybe 7, 8, in Berlin. It was to scare us a little bit. Oh, there is so much electromagnetic field. Another example. Maybe you noticed that there is a lot of movie cameras around. There are cameras here, there are cameras in the road. I work often with actors, and I work often with things that you need an actor, but I cannot pay an actor. So I use somebody that is not a film actor. And I tell him, because it's not very nice to have a camera on the face and say something else, say something natural. No, say it again, make it a little bit smaller, it's difficult. So I always tell them, imagine that the camera is not taking from you, but is giving you, like a light. You can make the experiment, you take a light, and if you are in the light, you learn it immediately, The light is here, the light moves here, like before with the bodies. The body is here, the body is there, and the light is here, the light is there, the light brings to me. The camera could be something that brings to me instead of taking out, no? By the way, Euclid had the same idea in describing the optics. He used a mathematical entity that then, after they thought was real, was saying that the rays would come out of our eyes, not in our eyes, because it was easier to explain optic phenomena. So you can change the story according to what you want to say. So now, you've noticed that there is a lot of cameras, and they could be, for example, that they hit us when we pass. We could maybe invent a dress that gets hotter when we get closer to a Wi-Fi connection, and get colder if the Wi-Fi connection is closed. No? This is wearable. This is what Rob calls the immediate body perception that we all have, because we experimented. We know where people is in the room, even if we close our eyes. There is much more in our senses than just our eyes. There is the sound, there is the heat, there is something that we call a sound or a heat or a combination of it. Maybe there can also be an illusion. I'm not good in it, but a good trickster might elude everybody here that there is something in the middle of the road. in the middle of the room, like when I was describing the red fish. I'm sure you all have seen the red fish there. Have you seen the red fish? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a good story creates a reality. It's just that it's a reality that's a little bit different. So, as Rob was saying, there is a technology now, and there is a way for us to be aware of the technology, but not only us, the human, other devices. So other devices recognize other devices in a certain sense that we don't know. That's, for example, the RFID, the tagging, etc. But also could be, if there is a sensor here, could be sensing if the camera is watching in this direction or not, for example. And then there are also the animals. In Europe recently they are trying to make a lot of studies to try not to kill animals with the roads. When the road passes there, you have traces of animals, and you can check if the animal tends to pass on the road, many of them dies. So maybe you can create a passage for animals, to have the animals cross the road without risking somebody to get hurt or the animals to die. So we have to think to many things that should talk between them, and as Rob says, have an agency, so have the possibility to say something, because the world is outside. Maybe you noticed it's not very safe as a whole system. There is not anymore somebody that we can say, like God is on the cockpit of this big spaceship, and is going to save us all and bring us to the harbor. Somehow we took the matter in our hands. Unfortunately, a German philosopher in this case said once, and it was Immanuel Kant, he said he lived all his life in the same shitty city in Germany with all these German people. Sorry, I'm joking, but it's getting a bit terrible, this joke. He said that the enlightenment is the moment in which humanity goes back from his state of minority, little age, is not a child anymore, and takes his destinies in his own hand. And he said, morale has to start from that. Just take responsibility in your own hand. You're not a children anymore. And immediately after he said that, the book is answer to the question, what is Illuminism? Enlightenment, sorry. Immediately after the French Revolution turned to the terror. That means the revolutionaries were so scared about themselves that they started to cut the head to everybody, just as to have fun. So it's very difficult, but somehow I feel we are starting to hide this information, the machine from the machine with different standards, the software from the software, keeping it obfuscated, not knowing what it does. Ourself from ourself, trying always to have some information one about the other because we cannot touch each other anymore. Instead, we thought, let's say as a principle of design, a way to bring, in this particular case that we are going to see, the information, that is, what is this device doing in this space, out in our senses in a way that it can talk to us. Same thing, it could talk to my dog. So, to close and leave the space to Jeremy that is going to explain us how it works. The situation is more or less a LAN, so a local area network, in which many devices can connect and disconnect. Imagine your own house, and what happened there. Jeremy is going to tell us a bit more.
Thank you, Federico.
Welcome.